to another edition of Prep Picks. Heather Williams alongside Steve Wilman, ESPN Tri-Cities, TriCitiesSports.com. Well, we picked the same last week, so of course the standings don't change at all.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, it's still one game lead for Steve in the standings, but a lot of football yet to play, although the weeks are winding down. I cannot believe we're only like 3 weeks away from the end of the regular season in the state of Tennessee, which is where we will start this week. An interesting non-region game between Crockett and Cherokee.
Yeah, both these teams coming off bye weeks last week, which I think they both needed. Cherokee has now lost 2 of its last 3. The last loss was at Greeneville. The last thing we saw from running back Jaden Weston was an injury in that game. He left, was evaluated. I hear he was on the sidelines. I do not know his status. I tried to get some intel out of Rogersville on that this week. Nothing yet. So I'm assuming that Jaden's going to play. Meanwhile, for Crockett, after sweeping Morristown, 3 straight losses. But, I mean, let's look at the competition, right? Gate City, Zephyr County, and Tennessee I, 3 very good football teams. In fact, if you look at Crockett's schedule, it's 5 losses. If those 5 teams don't win another game all year, they're all 500 or better. Meanwhile, Cherokee, its wins have come over teams that are 10-30, including Seymour, who's 4-4. So you take the Eagles out, it's 4-26. Still, I like Cherokee on the road with or without Weston. I just think offensively they're playing better football than Crockett is on that side of the ball. So I'll step out again and take the road team again. I was successful last week, so I'm going to stick with it for now.
I think this is a really interesting matchup because you mentioned the defense. I think that Crockett's defense is certainly good enough to win this football game. They're playing very well, but you also have to score points. And I think that's where they struggled a little bit, is to try to find the offense and get that offense going. We're going to do it again. Starting off the same. I went back and forth on this, but I think I'm going to go with Cherokee in this as well. Huge game in Region 1-1A as Cloudland travels to North Greene.
Certainly appears that Hampton is the class of this region for sure, but both of these teams, along with Cosby, sit at 3-1, so they're going to fight it out for that second home playoff spot. I think the Eagles have the inside track, having, I believe, beaten both Cloudland and North Greene. So this one could end up being for the 3rd seed. Speaking of Cosby, I think they beat both these teams by 16 points each. Is that correct? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
It's going to be one of those type games. Cloudland certainly, I thought, might be challenged a little bit more by Sunbright last week than when they were. They ran for like 10 yards a carry for 340 yards, something like that. Had no problem in that game. North Greene, I think, is a little bit more versatile on offense. I said I was going with the away teams on the first pick for now. Here's the for now. I'm going back home team here with the Huskies.
I think Cloudland, if they can run the football, they can beat anyone. Like, they're as good a running team and program, I think, that there is in the area. North Greene, they were really good last year. I feel like they've kind of taken a step back this year. And, you know, it happens with talent and kids and programs and that kind of stuff. They're definitely a playoff team. I think you've mentioned it's 4 teams that are going to be the playoff teams in that region. But I actually think Cloudland's playing a little bit better football right now. And so I am going to go with the away team again. We have finally diverged, and I'm going with the Highlanders. Biggest game in Tennessee as far as 2 local teams playing each other this week. It's time to see what Volunteers got. Time to see what, if they're for real. They will host Greeneville on Friday.
70 points last week.
Yes.
Never before in the history of volunteer football have the Falcons scored 70 points in a game. And they've broken a lot of records and done a lot of firsts this year already. Another win, and they'll have the first 7-win season in program history. But you're going up against Greeneville now. We've said it every time Volunteer or Cherokee have faced Greeneville and Elizabethton this year. We believe that the gap has narrowed, and we've been right 2 out of 3 times. Meatloaf said that ain't bad.
Right.
We'll like that. Greeneville certainly proved us kind of maybe not so correct last week in what they did against Cherokee. I don't know that they do the same against Volunteer. The Green Devils still win and win rather convincingly, but it is going to be interesting to see what this Volunteer team how they stack up against the Green Devils.
I think earlier in the season, I really felt like the hierarchy was Greeneville, Elizabeth, and Cherokee Volunteer. I'm not too sure about those bottom 2 now. I think that Volunteer might be playing better football at the moment than Cherokee. I think Greeneville wins this game, but I think this game will actually be closer than the game that Cherokee played against Volunteer, which starts to make that game at the end of the year between Volunteer and Cherokee very, very interesting. The Avoid Alcoa Bowl, as it was, but I'm going to go with you and take Greeneville as well. switch over to the Commonwealth. And I put this game on there not because of the records. Neither one of these teams are having great years, but because this is to be the final meeting between Hurley and Grundy before both schools become Southern Gap next year.
You know, the great Muhammad Ali once said, don't count the days, make the days count. That's what these two teams are doing. Don't count the games, make the games count. Actually, this one is going to count because the winner is going to be the Black Diamond champion,
Right.
no matter what those overall records are. If you're a right guard for Hurley, you might want to take a close look at the right guard for Grundy. If you're a middle linebacker for Grundy, you might want to take a close look at the middle linebacker for Hurley. You're going to be competing against that guy next year, maybe for playing time in a starting position as foes become friends next year. I like this game. I'm glad you put it on the schedule. I don't care about the record. I just like the nostalgia of it all because my high school went away a few
Right.
years ago. And so you hate to see that happening. You understand about consolidation. I'm going to go with the home team here. I'll go with the Golden Wave to win the final battle here.
So I have not seen Grundy. I saw Hurley early in the year, and they were actually a lot better than I thought they were going to be. There is some talent. I think once they combine with Grundy, it's going to be a net positive for their football program. I think that the schools have just gotten so small that there you can see there's pockets, but there wasn't enough to make a really competitive football team. So I think it's going to be good. This one was a lot harder than if you would have asked me at the beginning of the season it would be, because I would have said, oh, Grundy for sure.
Right.
But like I said, Hurley's having a pretty good season, and Grundy's not having as great a season as we probably expected as they've had in recent years. They've been a perennial playoff team that's upset more than a few teams in the last couple of years. I'm going with the Golden Wave, but I think it's going to be a great game, and I think that if you have a chance to get out to these schools at least one more time before the year's over, especially the Cliff, because it's such a cool place to watch a football game, I would highly recommend you doing it. This game's at Grundy, but I definitely would say check them out before they go away. Big game as far as region 2D in Virginia goes, as Lebanon goes to Union.
What a 3-week schedule
Yeah.
we've had
For-
at Bullet Park.
right.
I mean, really, Gate City, first of all, Ridgeview last week, and now Lebanon rolls hand in there with that offense. Well, what a treat folks in Big Stone Gap have had the last 3 weeks, not to mention that great music festival out there last
Right.
weekend as well. But anyway, Lebanon rolls in, averaging 51 points a game. They're undefeated at 7-0. Union, can they get up and play a third straight game against a very, very quality opponent? I think so. You look at that Union defense, very stout, although it did give up 21 points each of the last 2 weeks. But the offense for Union also scores a bunch. They've been averaging about 44. So I think I'm going to go out here. I'm going to say it's a third straight 42-21 win for Union.
Well, here's the thing I think about this game, particularly for Union. They spotted 14 points to Ridgeview, and Ridgeview's a good football program, don't get me wrong. But they don't score the way that Lebanon scores points. They cannot spot Lebanon 14 points. It will be very difficult for them to shut down that offense that much. Like even if they're giving up points, they need to respond at every point. So I think Union wins this game. I think it's really close, and I think that if Lebanon jumps out to an early lead, it could be problematic for Union. Final pick this week is our Friday night rivals game. Going into the season, this was going to be a great game. Injuries have kind of gotten the better of Lehigh, but nonetheless, they did get a win last week. Lehigh at Gate City.
Yeah, you feel for Lehigh. I mean, there's 5 starters that are out, and those starters, I think, start on both sides of the ball. So you've lost almost half of your starters, basically, 10 out of 22. And it's hard to overcome at a school that size. But it took the week off, got a chance to reevaluate itself, find some kind of identity, found it with Aiden Bates last week, 191 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. So you're going to hang your hat on Bates again this week against Gate City, but we know what Gate City's about. They've already hung their hat on their running game a long time ago, and they'll continue this week. Gate City lost to Union a couple of weeks ago, responded great against John Battle last week. They think and have a chance maybe to play Ridgeview all the way down on November the 7th for the number 2 team coming out of the Mountain Sevens. So got to keep winning. I think Gate City does this week.
I think that Gate City wins this game as well, as you mentioned. I feel bad for Lehigh. I was really looking forward to this game just because they're not a program that gets to showcase on Friday Night Rivals too often, and they had a really good season. Joey Carroll's doing an amazing job at building that program up there. Unfortunately, injuries got the better of them. I think it's still going to be great for them to be on television and to showcase that, because they don't get to do it a lot. But unfortunately, they're playing at a deficit, so we will go with the Gate City as well. What's on your mind this week?
Well, we like to give coach shout outs here, right?
Sure.
And as you said on Friday Night Huddle, Drew Rice at Unicoi County.
Yes.
Time wins leader for the Blue Devils.
Yes.
Didn't know that going in until I was watching. That's why you watch Friday Night Huddle, for intel like that. I'm excited to kind of get through last week and the games. A lot of open dates again this week. I'm excited, looking forward the last 2 weeks to having some more competitive football.
Yeah.
It hasn't been very competitive the last few weeks. The TWSAA stacks what they feel will be the more competitive games at the end of the year. So I'm looking for that. No disrespect to anybody out there, but there were some games last few weeks that we don't need to see.
Yeah, 70-point games are never
Yeah.
fun.
And it's just the way it is. The way the classifications are set up in the state of Tennessee was 6. You have small regions, you have big schools that can't find games. They're having to pay for games. There's got to be a better system.
Yeah, along those lines, I was going to say, it feels like the TWSAA maybe needs to step up. And this goes for the VHSL too, because, Rycove ended up having to play Lord Botetourt because they couldn't get anyone to play them.
Right.
When you're good, that happens. It happens in college basketball. That's why they set up the alliance for the mid-majors to schedule each other, because it was just getting ridiculous. It's like, how many NAIA schools can you play in a year? And it's getting like this in high school sports. So I don't know how they could do that, but I feel like that these sanctioning bodies maybe need to get involved and help these schools that are good. I mean, if you're not good, everybody wants to play you. It's like the Kansas Jayhawks back in the day, when they started mandating that teams had to play FBS schools. Everybody wanted to play Kansas. Their phone started ringing.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore because Kansas is a better football team, but you get what I'm saying. There has to be a solution for this, because nobody wants to be involved in a 70-0, a 70-7, a game that's 45-0 after one quarter. That's not fun for anyone. It's not fun for the team that's beating the brains out of somebody, because you're not getting real competition. You're not getting better. It's not fun for the team getting their brains beat in, and it's not fun for the fans watching it. Like, it's just not fun.
Yeah, it was only fun frankly, for Claiborne's football team when they put the check in the bank early on Friday night. That was the only fun thing about it. So you hate to see it. The TWSAA sets the region schedule. Maybe they need to step up and, mandate some certain non-region games as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And even if it's because one of the things that when I talked to Daniel Kilgore at Providence Academy, he was having a hard time getting local teams to play, because we're a private school, so they think we pay for all our players, which they don't.
Right.
But maybe if it's making some of these higher end private schools play 6A schools, like, wouldn't it have been better, instead of Claiborne, to have Baylor or Macaulay play up here?
Interesting.
I mean,
It might not have been a different result.
no, it might have been the other way,
Yeah.
but it just made, and maybe that they're too high up too, but Knox Christian or Knox Catholic, or
Saw Grace Christian beat Sevier County last week. I mean,
Right.
those are competitive games, and there's not enough of those being played. So you're right. You bring Baylor, Macaulay up here and face DB or Science Hill. Hey, I'd love to see Baylor up here.
Mhm.
I've seen Baylor on video before. They are unbelievable. Yeah, that would be great. And you put a big check in the bank.
Yeah.
You put a big check in the bank that night too. So
Yeah.
just our, our 2 cents
We
worth.
solved the world's
We
problems,
do.
don't
We
we?
always do.
All right. If you want more from high school sports, not just football, but all sports, be sure to check out his website, tricitysports.com. And then for all your high school football scores and highlights on Friday night, join me at 11:15 on News 5 for Friday Night Huddle.